Kendra, very good to have you on here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I saw that the music that you've been making underneath your own name stems back to 2010 was when the first release came out. Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, actually, even before that, I used to be putting songs out. This really dates me. Um, I would put songs out on MySpace, and also I would put songs back when you could upload music to iTunes. Like even I think you could do it. I think it was even before TuneCore. I can't remember. It was before like you could just upload your music to iTunes. That's when I started as my own name. Before that, I was the only stuff that you can really find me before that. I was in like a band that we didn't put out a record. Yeah, I've just been doing this forever.
What year did this project start for you?
Which one? The like me as me?
As you, yeah, you as you.
I mean, really if like going back to MySpace like that far,
Sure.
probably
Even
like
or further if it extends further.
well, I guess officially I was always playing in like coffee shops and stuff around Florida. And I think I burned CDs and would pass them out. I had like a burnt CD that I would like sell. But really, like the first anything can like really Kendra Morris was after my band that I moved to New York with. We broke up. We had like toured in Florida and we were like, let's move to New York because nothing was happening in Florida at the time. Um, so we moved to New York, and then we luckily didn't kill each other, but we got close because it was like early 2000s New York. I mean, not early. Yeah, I don't want to date myself again. It was like New
Mid
York
to late.
City,
We'll say mid to late.
mid 2000s, definitely. Yeah, mid to late, something like that. Um, we were just at each other's throats because we were like early, like maniacs just getting to New York City from Florida. Like we're gonna, it was sweet. We were really naive, but we were also, especially me, I was really wild. So we broke up, and then I was like, I took 6 months off of anything creative and musical just to have New York experiences because I was like, well, I'm gonna need something to write about. So I worked in a bar, and then about 6 months after just not doing anything music, the only time in my life where I took a break, I bought an 8 track at a little music store called Rivington Guitars. And they had this little digital 8 track Tascam, and I bought it. And that was the beginning of putting out Kendra Morris stuff. I lived in a loft in Bushwick, and I had this little like cubby area where I was like part of my closet, kind of. It was a loft. I would go and like record on the 8 track, and then I would just upload the songs to MySpace. And then when I got to 6 songs, I would make little like EPs and release them on iTunes. And then I would like burn my own CDs and make my own covers, and I would try to give them out at the bar or sell them. But that was probably 2008 maybe. So that's probably when Kendra Morris like officially was born. And then I met this guy Jeremy Page, who I did numerous of my records that you're probably familiar with. I met him and we did a self-titled EP. We would get together and just work on demos. He was the first producer I had ever really worked with. Um, so maybe you would even consider that the beginnings, which that was probably 2010.
Right. Gotcha. Had you always had the intention of making music with a project like this? Was it always on the table even before moving to New York?
As like a solo artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I love doing things in groups. I love like camaraderie. I just think there's something fun about building a team. And so when I had gotten into a band, I think in the back of my head, I was just really scared, but I knew that that was going to be like the catalyst and the driving force to get me out of my comfort zone in Florida, get me out of just the coffee shops. Cause like I actually saw my old drummer last night. She happened to be in town. I hadn't seen her in like 20 years, but she was really business minded. And like between like her business mind and my like just drive, like we had this drive, and then our bass player, it was just like nothing. We were crazy. Nothing could stop us. And so I think in the back of my head, I knew that that band, I mean, we were not good. Like we could hardly play our instruments, but we just wanted to make music so bad. But I knew in the back of my head that that was going to be the thing that was going to get me to the next. You know where you know something in the back of your mind, but you're not ready to admit it yet, but you feel it?
Right.
It was like that.
Yeah. Is your old drummer, is she still making music as well?
She's not, but she was. She moved into the music business for a long time, and she was an A&R for different labels, and she also moved into like casting. She did all kinds. She's done all kinds of stuff. Now she's in doing stuff in sales, but she's always like doing something interesting, and she works still with musicians and stuff. So, um, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, your relationship with music, it stemmed from being in Florida, right? That's where it was kind of birthed, if you will.
Yeah, my parents are musical. They're musicians. Not like they're professional, but that their careers weren't as musicians. They always though like had bands. They always had like different. There was always like different musical things that they were doing. There was always musicians in the house. There was always music. Even like we had to do chores on Saturdays. Like my dad would give us maps of like weeding the yard and picking up grapefruit, Florida kinds of chores. But he would wake us up with like a record on the stereo, like the Spinners or War, or they had like this cool big record player, and I loved getting into their records. And that's really what I think what started my love of like soul music was that record collection. And also there was a really great oldies radio station in Florida. It was called U92. And like while all my friends were listening to like pop music and like the pop stations, I was listening to oldies, like 60s music. Like that stuff. I had this like cassette tape that I found called Cruising Classics, and it had like Buddy Holly and the Shangri-Las and Marvelettes, and like I would just sit in my room trying to sing and dance like them. So it started, I mean, it just started, was just raised around music from a really young age.
That's awesome. Now, when you moved to New York from Florida, did that move just spark a whole another thing in you to be motivated in order to start creating your own music or create music on a different level?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just this energy to New York that so many, like, a lot of people come to New York with like a big dream. And so it's just a lot of the people that come here are just either really, really talented or really, really driven or both. And so you're just always kind of like, you can feel it in the air. You can kind of feel the energy of the city. And I just remember getting here and suddenly, like, I just remember looking around and just being inspired, but also like terrified of just this new world of people that you could go to a bar and see people from your favorite bands who are just sitting next to you drinking a beer, and you're like within arm's length and a conversation away. You never know if those conversations are, like before there was like social media, it was like the
There were
excitement.
bars.
Yeah, there was bars. There's some, but there's like the excitement of just you don't know where anything's gonna lead. It's like a great adventure and a mystery, and like one little conversation could be something that is a it is a branch to something major in your life.
Right.
So
Who were some of the more popular bands around New York at the time that you moved there?
like TV on the radio. I mean, they're back now doing stuff, but
Yeah.
like Jaleel from TV on the radio, he was always bartending at Max Fish. And it's funny because like I see him around all the time now. We're in like a same circle of friends. So like you'd see like TV on the radio out, or you'd I'd see like Julian Casablancas like on the Lower East Side, or like I bartended at this dive bar called the Library Bar, which is it still exists. It's on Avenue A in Houston, but Anton Newcomb from Brian Jonestown Massacre lived upstairs. So he was a regular, and he would just come and hang out with me on my boring day shifts. And I would just like absorb his, like his his energy was amazing, and he just had these great stories. And then sometimes, like, because everyone knew where to find him, like all his friends that would be in town, they would just all come through the library bar on an afternoon looking for Anton. Is Anton here? And then sometimes he'd bring people in at night. Like, I remember like one night James Ehaw came in, and like there would be like top writers from Spin magazine, or just you name it, like all kinds of people came through that door, because also Mercury Lounge is still across the street, and then you have Bowery Ballroom, and then all down there was a street on Ludlow was all these amazing dive bars like Max Fish, the Dark Room, which was where everybody would throw their after parties. You could go to the Dark Room on a Thursday or Friday night, and all the Bowery Ballroom after parties were there. So it was just, you would just see everybody, and it was just a time where there was so much more mystery to the musicians you loved. So it was kind of like exciting to be kind of amongst it all.
Yeah. Were some of these bands that were more prominent, like TV on the radio, for instance, were bands like that also an inspiration for you, even outside of the outside of your other inspirations that maybe stemmed in Florida or wherever it may be?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like when I moved to New York, I would go to a lot of shows, and I was listening to a lot of, indie rock. I remember like one of my favorite bands right before I moved to New York was Interpol. My bassist and I loved Interpol, and they were the soundtrack to our move to New York. Interpol, and then there was this band called Elephant, and we had kind of connected with them at a show in Florida. But it was just uh, definitely like these bands had a New York sound to them. It was like a very like lived in New York sound, and it wasn't just like someone going, I want to sound like this. It was a sound that everyone picked up from being in a New York element together. Whatever, I had this like gritty like New York sound, and I don't know how to explain it, but you could hear it in like music that of like around then, which was probably like 2010.
So how did you get started working as a bartender? Were you a bartender in Florida previously, or did you move to New York? I'll just be a bartender. How did that work out?
I was just I waited to I was always like doing music, but I had tried to like be in cover bands and stuff to make money. And I performed at Busch Gardens. I was one of the entertainers at like the stage show. Um and then I realized that, well, Busch Gardens didn't re-sign me because I can't dance, and they did a show that involved dancing. So that was very shortly lived. I think I even sent videos out to cruise ships and was like, maybe I can get a job as a performer on a cruise ship. But yeah,
And you're still open to that, right? If anybody with a
I
cruise
can't
ship
dance though. Yeah,
is
yeah,
listening,
I'm ready for the ocean.
there's a large part of my audience here is cruise ship directors. So
Really?
no, I don't know. Maybe. I
We're
mean, cruise
just
ship
gonna leave it
directors,
open.
reach out if you're listening. I'd love to know.
I have a VHS audition tape I could send you.
Yeah, we got it
Um,
on VHS, and we're not going to digitize it. And please be careful because it might get stuck in the VCR now.
yeah. No,
It's a real one of one. We're not making copies of it, so be careful.
I do have the VHS tape somewhere. But no, I realized early, and I'm thankful for this. I realized that I didn't like singing other people's songs. I didn't like being in other people's bands. I didn't like, I never have liked having a boss. And that has echoed through my entire life. I just have not liked being told what to do, how to do something. Never. And maybe that's called being stubborn. I don't know. But because of that, instead of like, using my voice to get like different like jobs in, singing in like cover bands at bars, I instead was like, I'm gonna wait tables or bartend, and then I can use my other time to focus on doing it my way. And then I don't have to worry about like that'll be my means of money. So that I started out just like waiting, I'm always good at wiggling my way in places, and I wiggle my way into a restaurant. And then I remember going up to the manager one day and being like, hey, would you mind training me to bartend? I just want to learn. And he's like, if I train you to bartend, then you're going to go and get a job somewhere else and be a bartender. And I was like, no, I won't. And so I did just that. I got him to train me at the restaurant. I got them to let me behind the bar. And then I went and did that and started getting bartending jobs. And then I just kept getting better and better bartending jobs, working in like really high volume, really fast paced places. And then when I moved to New York, it was just, I worked at Hula Hands in Times Square for like 2 days and walked out because it was the worst. Like it was awful. And then I got my job at library, and then library was such a great job to get. Like it was a dream job as a transplant moving to New York City to get a job in like this high volume dive bar where I just met so many connections, so many people, like, and it was just that bar kind of like opened a lot of just opportunities and met a lot of people that really wound up putting me in this chair where I am right now. So
In front of cruise ship directors. I get that, and that's
exactly.
fantastic.
No,
Um, what were some drinks that you didn't particularly enjoy making that patrons would ask for while being a bartender that you're like, oh, I gotta make this now, and you weren't too stoked on it?
yeah, that's, let's see. A Long Island iced tea was kind of a pain in the butt because also they were like in pint glasses. I didn't mind it so much, but people would get so drunk on them. I remember one night, these girls, there was like a sports bar next door, and a lot of times people would order food from the sports bar and bring it over. And it was like a Friday night evening. I just started my shifts, and these two girls are sitting at the bar and they're eating all this, like they have like a spread from the restaurant next door in front of them. The bar is like 3 rows of people deep. I'm like slam, and these girls are drinking double Long Island iced teas. One is doing double Long Island iced teas, and another is doing double. No, yeah, they both were doing double Long Island iced teas, and I'm just like looking at my friend. I'm like, this isn't going to end well, but they're so expensive. I was just like, but we're putting money, like it's Friday night, like they're gonna sit in this prime real estate and like spread out. I'll give them their double pint glass of, so it was like this much liquor. Like you could this, I feel like this would be illegal today by how much, this much Coke. Because all that a Long Island iced tea is not tea. It's just every liquor minus minus tequila, I think, or minus the brown, like the brown stuff. I think Jack, I don't remember what it's missing, but it's every liquor, and then you squirt a little bit of Coke and a little bit of sour mix, and that's a Long Island iced tea. These girls, I'm just watching them, and I'm like, this is, I have a bad feeling. I look away. Keep in mind, this is like 8 p.m. Slammed New York City East Village. I look back, and the girl pukes all over the bar. Like everything that I watched her eat, mozzarella sticks, nachos, chicken wings, everywhere, coating the bar. And I'm like, I knew it. And I was like, no. And I'm going and I'm grabbing the rag, grabbing the bar back, trying to clean it. And then she's like, I got it, I got it. And she starts trying to help clean, but she starts pushing it into the ice bins, pushing it
Yeah.
in. So then barf in everything. We had to clean out. And I just remember I was like, after that, I don't think I ever served any more double Long Island iced teas. But it was like exactly how you'd imagine, just pushing barf. And I'm just thinking, this could give us an F because in New York you get ratings like on your
Yeah,
books
yeah.
and restaurants. I was like, this will give us an F. Yeah.
And that she was a food inspector, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Health
That's how they
inspector.
test you now.
Are there any other interactions with any other people that frequented the bar or came in that stick out to you still?
Um, yeah, actually, this was always kind of fun. So do you remember the movie um Pulp Fiction?
Yeah,
A
sure.
little movie that had come out.
Very niche. Yeah, it's very yeah,
Not everyone would know of this movie. No, I'm just kidding.
cult classic, yeah.
So one of my regulars for a minute, he lived in the neighborhood, was um is it not who's the guy who winds up like it's the scene with Bruce Willis. He's like a major villain in the movie. I just forgot his name. Not Zed.
Mhm.
Wait. He's wearing like the leather straps and stuff and he like
Oh, he was the guy in the basement.
yeah.
Uh-huh. I can't
Remember
remember.
him?
I do know who you're talking about, and I
He's
can't
like in a
remember.
lot of great like he's in a lot of movies, but he's always like a villain or like he's in a lot of indie films. What the heck is Peter
L-
Green? That's
like Pulp Fiction, for instance. Yeah,
yeah,
famous
like Pulp
indie film.
Fiction. Peter Green is his name. So
Peter
Peter
Green.
Green was one of my regulars for a minute, and he'd come in, and I always like during the day. I worked the day shifts because it wasn't as much money as the really like crazy nights, but it was more fun, and I could still make a lot because it was just based on like hanging out with people, interacting, and I would always do arts and crafts with everybody. I would like bring collage materials or always have some sort of project going on and like would make strike up so many conversations and make friends because people would come in at 2 in the afternoon for like to nurse a hangover and we'd end up just like making collages or like I had these little like happy hour toys that I'd give out and everybody would play with them. And so he would come in and that was always kind of cool. He was really quiet but very nice. And then also Lou Reed came in one time.
Wow.
And I didn't know it was him until he left. He came in, it was another one of those day shifts. Um, and this must have been because I know he didn't drink for like at the end of his life. And this was like way before that he had stopped drinking, I think. It was I used to bring my dog to work with me. She was a little Boston Terrier, and I would around when I first started working there, I would put outfits on her. Like she had a ladybug costume, and then she had like a ruffle bikini bottom, and people would shove dollars in it, and she'd walk on the bar and hold coasters in her mouth and hand out coasters. And so it'd be me and my bar dog. Her name was Taco. And one day I'm working like it's a really dead shift. It's like me and this one other regular. And this guy comes in, and my dog was in her ladybug costume walking on the bar, and he orders a Budweiser, and then he goes and sits in the window that's right by the bar. And you get like the best light. He's just like this guy. He's tall and skinny, and he's like just writing. And he just had a thing to him. I don't know. I just was like, this feels like just like somebody special. But, and like, I could just feel it. Me and my friend are talking, and I was talking to my friend about music, and this guy is just because I was like, just this is when I was making the demos in my closet on the 8 track, and I was talking to my friend about how hard I had like a show that night or something, and at one point this guy looks up and he's like, you just got to keep writing. He was like, you just write no matter what, and you keep writing. And I was like, thanks. And
And you
he's
should
like,
settle down. You don't know what you're talking
yeah. I
about.
was like, come on, Navid. Anyways, so like he goes outside and he's smoking, and my regular is like, man, is it here? Does that looks like Lou Reed? Nah, he's too wrinkly. And I'm like, yeah. And I look and I'm like, and he's wearing Tivas with socks. Like, that's not Lou Reed. And so guy comes back in, finishes his beer, and goes back out and is starting to walk down the street. And my regular runs out. He's like, I think it's Lou Reed. And he runs out. He goes, hey, Lou. And he turns around and sure enough, he's like, Lou, come back. Can I buy you one? He's like, sorry, man, I got a show in Philly tonight or something. But it was just like, I had chills. I was like, Lou Reed told me to keep writing. And he saw my dog in a ladybug costume. Like,
A big day for a lot of people. Yeah.
it was.
That's amazing.
See, if
That's
I didn't
really
work at that
awesome.
bar, I wouldn't have had that moment.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in this chair, because Lou Reed told me to keep writing.
What were some peeves that you had with some people who would come into the bar, whether it be a day shift or a night shift? What was something that irked you that people did frequently? Not
I
just
mean,
one person, but multiple people.
not tipping,
Mm-hmm.
bad tipping,
Mm-hmm.
people that were kind of entitled, because you would get that. You would get people coming in who just, especially like in the end of my, I worked there for 13 years. So like
A
it
quick
was
stint.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, just a little thing. I
Yeah.
work even like when like I had records that started, like when I put out Banshee, and Banshee like kind of did well. Like it was picking up and getting played places, and I was doing like little tours. I went to Europe, and I would always come back and work at the bar. You know, it was always, that bar was always a part of my life, no matter what. Like even if I had a show, I'd send everybody to the library bar afterwards. Um, but like, so in the end, when I was getting ready to like not work there anymore, the 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 crowd in the area started to change. It became a very much like NYU started to grow into the East Village more. And I'm not knocking NYU students, you know, like I can't speak for all of NYU and I can't speak for anyone individually, but there was a certain entitlement to some of these like kids that came in who maybe never had to have a job serving, that came to NYU maybe um, on not really having to work too hard to get to NYU, having a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money. And so in the end, like there was a lot of entitled uh, people that would come in, and I would work a Friday night and I would feel like this big, this big. Um, and like that was really hard sometimes. I would just feel like emotionally, like, just feel like I was like, wow, some people are not nice. And this makes me sad for people.
Now, what were some things that people did to make your job easier or that made it a better time working there?
Tips good. um, just made me laugh. People who came in and just had good spirits to them. People that just, I've made some really close friendships there. And I had like a lot of really good laughs, like laughing till you cry type of things. Maybe like something would happen. People that would spend a whole afternoon like with me. And even if they didn't, you know, only had like a drink the whole day, but they were just like good company. That was, I was always like endlessly grateful to that. I don't know, like, no, it was the girls that I bartended with were awesome. Like I made some really close friends there, and yeah, whole library ball.
So for people who frequent bars, be nice and be jovial and tip well. And is there any other advice that you'd give to these people that that frequent bars?
Just be kind to whoever you're, anyone that is doing a job, anybody, whether they're blessing your table, making your sandwich, pouring your drink, um, the whether they're your bar back or whether they're taking out the trash in your building, like treat everyone the same and with like kindness and love and respect, because you don't know what people individually are grinding for. Like it's really expensive to live in the world right now, so all of us are working double and triple time to pay a bill. Like just root your neighbor on, you know.
Mhm.
That's all I would say, is like,
Be
because
like Lou.
yeah, be like Lou.
Yeah,
Wear those Tevas with socks.
we do it. I mean, I won't look as good, but go ahead and try it. Um, did working at the bar or stepping away from music for short periods of time for like a shift or whatever it may be, did that help inspire new ideas in terms of songs for you?
think it's what you have to do for anything. Like I try to apply that still constantly, just stepping outside, or that's why I do different forms of art, because when I take a break of one art form, it doesn't mean that that art form's not working anymore. It's like almost like it goes into an autopilot while I go and work this other muscle, and I come back to it and I'm inspired in ways I didn't even know, because like my brain was still being inspired. It was just kind of almost in like a different mode.
Hmm.
So even like when by not like that's that thing of like by not having a job by of playing in being a working musician, and instead deciding to bartend and wait tables, um, it absolutely like inspired me. I would just like I mean just even the different like parts of me that were growing and experiencing New York, the parties that I would wind up at, or the friends that I'd meet, or the things that I'd see. Like there's a song on Banshee, which was my first record, and it's called How You Want It. And that song was inspired by working a really busy night in the bar at Library Bar. And I remember it was like one of those nights, kind of like the night where the girls barfed and pushed into the ice, and it was just
Health
slam.
inspector, the health inspector
It
did
was
that.
the
Yeah.
health inspection night, but it was like inspired by those busy Friday night shifts when the crowd started to kind of change over and I started to feel this small, and like the tips started to get pretty, like you were working double time and making less money because people just were like, you're just my this, you could feel, and that's what that song was about.
The technical first release was the self-titled, right?
Yeah.
Then so that was 2010. How long had those songs been in your rotation or ether before you had gone and recorded them?
I'm trying to remember what those songs. Split. It's a split because that was my first thing with Jeremy. I had been, doing those I will call them demos, but they were like releases, those 8-track songs. And there was a few that I hadn't put out on any of my little 8-track CDs. And I remember I brought a couple, and I feel like one or two he produced and like recreated it to this, because I remember like when I first, before I started working with him, I had met him through a customer at the Library Bar who was like always writing, and I was like, what are you doing? And then he was like, gave me a CD, and I was like, how does it sound so big? And he's like, I have a producer. And I was like, I want one. And so like fast forward, I wound up working with his producer. It's kind of like
Another small conversation sort of a thing, right?
yeah. And so we so when I started working with him and we started just getting together at his studio in Bushwick and doing demos, he produced a couple of mine that I had been kicking around. And then we also started writing together, where he would start with like a beat or a little bit of an instrumental, and then I would go and write the the lyrics and the melody lines. And we kind of, that was a lot, a good deal of the way we worked going forward with Banshee. Mockingbird was a covers record, so obviously, and then even we worked together, we collaborated together through Nine Lives.
With Mockingbird being a cover album, what made you want to cover songs for that? Because as you said previously, you didn't want to play other people's music. Was there a turning point for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for that was more about, I was going to this, there was this really great karaoke party in the Lower East Side, at this bar called Botanica. And it was on Sunday nights, and it was not like a typical, like what you think of karaoke. It was like a dive bar with a karaoke DJ, and like me and all my group of friends that I met at the Library Bar would wrap up a shift and we'd go down there, and it would be just like this core group of people, like Botanica regulars, and we'd sit and karaoke all night, and it was like a hangout, and you'd meet other people, some all kinds of people came, musicians, like whatever. And I remember when we would do the karaoke, I'd be like, oh, someone would do a song, I'd be like, I forgot what a great song that is. And you're, when people karaoke, you're reminded what makes a great song. Great songs become karaoke songs because they're so fun to sing. And so that Jeremy and I were already like enjoying doing covers, but what we liked to do and what like I think makes doing a cover like the whole point of doing a cover is to make it your own. Make it like a great song is a great song through and through. You can a great song is a great song no matter how it's produced. To me, that is just a core good song. You can strip it down, you can build it up, you can do it with a xylophone, you can do it with an accordion, you could do it with a gospel choir, you could do it with, you know, you name it. A great song will remain a great song. So with doing covers, it was just always fun. We had been kind of flipping songs, trying them in different styles, like, oh, remember this song? And then I was with Wax Poetics at the time, and they were loving, we had put some out just for fun online, and they had gotten like a really good response. So Wax Poetics was like, let's do a whole record of them. So I was like, that sounds like a blast. And like our rule to ourselves was you can't just cover a song and play it the same way, because why cover it then? You can just listen to the original. Like, let's cover these songs and create them entirely new, but they have to stay the same great, you know, the bones of the song will always remain.
Is that your thought when going to see a show or a live concert that you want it to sound different than how it's recorded?
I'm really not partial either way, because I do like hearing something that's totally different. You know, when I go to a show, I'm not mad if somebody changes up the song, because I also understand as an artist you need to continuously be inspired on stage, and sometimes playing the same song over and over the same way, it starts to lose its sheen for you. And so in order to be able to really give the performance you want to your audience, it's also important as an artist to allow yourself to play a little bit on stage. So
Hmm.
I'm not mad. Maybe it's because I am an artist and I get it. And also you never know like what's gonna spawn for the artist from that.
So with that first release, was that a big milestone for you? Was that like, hey, here it is, I'm doing it, or
Banshee.
here's yeah, or
You
even the self title, or maybe a combination of both of those being out.
I think Banshee was, because Banshee was my first release signed to a record label, and that was huge. That felt huge because Wax Poetics was like, I mean, they were a major tastemaker magazine, and then they created this label as an offshoot to the magazine, and it just really like people kind of turned their heads and were like, oh, like who's this? Wax Poetics put their stamp of approval on it. So it just, I feel like it was my first time feeling like, oh my, like, man, like feeling like I am doing what I'm supposed to do. This is, people are responding to this. Let's keep going, you know? And there've been like little bubbles throughout my life of things like that happening. Like when I was doing the songs on the 8-track, and I would just like put the songs out and I would talk to everyone at the bar about, you know, like I was always just talking about I'm a musician, I'm right, like, and a lot of times I would play these, you know, these 8-track songs for people, and it was like, no, that's too like you can't get anywhere with those songs. You just did them, you know. I would hear a lot of no's. About hear a lot of no's, and then one day I don't know how it happened, but somebody had found one of my MySpace songs on MySpace or whatever, and it was a guy who was doing licensing for a show on MTV. And he's like, "Hey, like I'm doing the license and I'm allowed to like pick like I it was back when people were finding, anyways, I ended up getting licensed, the song ended up getting licensed to some like kind of a bit, the show, I forgot what it was called. It was called Exile. It was about these girls that are like sent away to an island or something. I can't remember.
Classic MTV. Classic.
Yeah, classic, like great MTV. They really, they really became a top station there. But
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's Real World, it's Beavis and Butthead, and it's Exiled.
Beavis and Butthead. Anyways, it got picked up, and it did. I think I made $50 or $20, but a lot of people heard the song and then started like sending me, oh, I heard your song on this show, and like, and it was the song that I recorded on my 8-track. And like I remember watching the show and hearing my song, and I was like, everyone told me no, but there's a yes right there. And like little things like that happen throughout my life, because you get so many no's, get so many no's. But if I listen to those no's, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. If I listened to those no's, instead, I just said, every time I've gotten a no, it's always been like, well, watch me, just watch me. I'm just gonna, because there's no, I mean, really, like everything's made up pretty much. Like nothing's, it's your own narrative. It's your story. This is like, you have your story and I have my story, and my story involves my stubbornness and being like, well, watch me. And so like little things like that, like Banshee and like signing with Wax Poetics, like that was all like a random thing. Jeremy and I had been making these songs around the self-titled. There was a song called Pity Pity, which was on the self-titled. You can find it on YouTube. It's not released anywhere anymore. And somehow my ASCAP guy floated, CeeLo Green was looking for songs, and somehow this song Pity Pity wound up on the desk of Atlantic Records, and it almost was going to be picked up to be on CeeLo's record FU. Remember that record, the major one? It was like, it was in the runnings to be one of the songs on his record, and it didn't end up on it. Like I don't know how many conversations it went through. I don't even know if CeeLo heard it. Who knows? I don't know how much he had to, but it was still like, it was such a cool thing. But instead, because of the interest in that, it got other people turning their heads, which was why my ASCAP guy showed it to this publishing company called Notable at the time, who had like all of Cy Coleman's catalogs. They had Roseanne Cash, and they had all of
MySpace.
And MySpace. They had all of MySpace and
all
Tom.
of MySpace. Oh, yeah, Tom was there. Yeah.
Tom.
He's actually my friend. Yeah.
He's mine too. But I went in to meet with Notable about the publishing, and Wax. They're like, do you want to maybe do a publishing deal with Notable Wax? And I went into a meeting to just do like an admin deal. But the conversation and the connection I had with the guys at Wax Poetics went so well that they're like, that was how I wound up signing with them. They were just like, we love each other. Like, let's make a record. And like, so again, like little like bubbles of things. And like for every time you get a little like woohoo, you have like your lows too, for every, right. You get it all. You just gotta ride the waves.
Yeah.
Stay in the middle.
somewhere in the middle. That MTV show wasn't the only thing that used your music within their project, right? There's a couple other things that a couple other people used your songs as well.
Yeah, like Banshee was on a major scene on the last, like the 11th episode of season 1 of Ray Donovan. And that was kind of a huge, that was kind of a big game changer too, because that show was an amazing show, and it was used in the way that it was used in a pinnacle moment of the series. Like, it just goes to show when you put music in the right context, in the right moment, it can be really powerful in film. And it opened a lot of doors.
Were you watching Ray Donovan before this, or did it get you into Ray Donovan?
No, but I did get into Ray Donovan. after that. It was such a good show.
That's
And then I ended
crazy.
up,
Jumping in at a pivotal scene, you go, all right, well, that's spoiled
yeah,
for me, so let me let me go back.
I know. I think I waited. The song came out, but I purposely wouldn't watch the series until like I didn't want to ruin the scene for myself. So like while everyone's like, "Hey, I love your song in the show," I hadn't seen it, and I was like, "Cool." And like I don't think I watched the series for another year, so I could watch the whole season. And then I was like, "Oh, this is really cool," because it's that big fight scene. And then I ended up getting to when they were filming like season 2 or season 3, they were filming down the street here in Greenpoint. They used to film over here, and I got to go over to the set one day, and I got to go on Lev's trailer, and Dash, who plays Budgie, he gave me a tour of like the set. It was really cool.
Was Ray Liotta in that? Or am I mistaken that with another show?
Yeah, Ray Liotta, I think has been in every show in existence. He's got one of those faces where you're like, wasn't he in that? Anything that's kind of has some fighting, some
I'll say this for a fact. I know that Ray Liotta is not in the cult classic Pulp Fiction. That's for sure. I can
no,
rule
but
that
you
out.
almost feel like he could have, right? Like
Kinda, yeah.
Ray
I
Liotta
didn't
is
want to mention
a
it.
Mandela. Ray Liotta Ray Liotta is going to be a Mandela effect. You watch. One day, people are going to be like, "Didn't I see?" He will be like, "Didn't we see him in that?" And then someone like is like, "Yeah, he was in that." And you're like, "What? No."
When your song is used in another person's art, is that like a big moment for you as well? Like, wow, like here's something that I created that somebody else found interest in and is now
Yeah,
helping this other art form.
it's just always like I always have to like do little pause moments where I'm like, this is really cool. Like, and I have to remind myself, remember all those no's? Well, here's one of those yeses. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy it because you're gonna get another no.
I know it's right around the corner. Yeah. Do you ever go back and listen to your previous releases, or are you just kind of like once it's out, it's out, unless it's in a Ray Donovan or something like that?
Yes and no. I realize that I like just letting go of them once they're out. Like
Hmm.
when they first come out, I will listen that week. When a song comes out, I will listen to it. And I listen to it a ton up until it comes out.
Right.
Once it's been out, I really just let I because I'm thinking back, I haven't listened to Banshee in a long time. I haven't listened to Mockingbird. I just have to let go of them because also as an artist, you'll always be growing and critiquing yourself if you're continuously making. And because of that, then I don't want to go back to these records that I know are they were really special records to make and they're really special to a lot of people still. I don't want to go back and like be hard on myself. Like, that's horrible. I could have done that better because just naturally I am gonna do that. So it's
Hmm.
just better, I think, to just step away. And then once in a while I'll get like a an itch and I'll go back and listen to some. Oh, I haven't listened to this in a while. You know what? I'm gonna listen. But most of the time I once it's out, listen for, while it's still fresh to everybody, because I like to feel like then I'm in their ears. And then after it's been out a minute, I have to kind of keep walking forward.
Yeah. Do they feel different to you when you go back and revisit some older songs from the catalog?
Sometimes, yeah, depending on like where I was in my head at the time.
Hmm.
Because they're all, I mean, I like to think about writing as kind of like a little picture of a moment of a, because for me, like the way I write is just to get out of my own head. Sometimes it's like a lot of the stuff that I write about is subconscious. It starts forming through a melody and then the words come out. So when I go back and listen, I'm like, I remember this was like a time when I was like that bar thing. I remember that night just staring at there was like some kids leaning against kids. I was like a kid. There was like a group of like really drunk people leaning against the bar and I was just like it was just kind of sad to watch. They were just like not the I remember it was just like one of those nights, it was the Entitled Crowd night, and I just remember being like, they're just so like, I just remember being like, they're just so numb to everything, and I was so inspired to write that song the next day. And like when I go back to that song, I can remember staring at these like three people that were leaning against the bar and having these emotions at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Are is there at least one song from all of the releases that is still on the table to put it into the rotation of a set list? Is there at least like
Uh,
one? Yeah.
Banshee.
Hmm.
We didn't play at one show, and I had some really upset people. So Banshee is always in the set, no matter what. Um, that one, Concrete Waves, is usually in. There's something from every record. Like This Life is always in the set from Nine Lives. Um, there's like something from each, but I do always like to. I love playing. I'm one of those annoying artists that likes to play the new stuff.
That's I think it's every artist. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's done. Here's the new thing.
Yeah.
And then people get adjusted to that new thing. You're like, oh, it's great. And they go, nope, that's done. You should have enjoyed it when we were playing it. Now we're
Yep.
playing the new stuff. Yeah. Do you feel like there's a big difference between what you were recording, not even only in 2010, 2012, 2015, not so long ago? Do you feel like there's a big difference between what you were doing then and what you're doing now? Or,
Huge
mhm.
difference. It's what I'm doing now is night. I love the stuff I did then, but this is like everything from my past was accumulated to my present and my future right now. Like I put out 3 songs recently since March, and I produced all those songs and played on those songs with Terry at Coal Mine. And those, like, that is the most I've been really like, that is as Kendra Morris as you're gonna, this that besides those 8 tracks from when I started, these new songs are as Kendra is are like, I've worked really hard to make these songs because it involved stepping out of a comfortable zone, shaking things up a bit, and doing something terrifying. But I knew I had to do something terrifying and go into an uncomfortable place to make something that I'm really, really, really proud of. And that's these 3 songs and maybe some more. We'll see. Um, but yeah, it's so different. I mean, the the previous stuff, the stuff with Jeremy, he did a lot of the driving. Like he put together the band and like really like it was a great band. Like we could sound just like the recordings, and we did. Sometimes we even had a track to keep everything on a grid. Um, but there was something in me that I wanted to make messes, and because I'm a messy, eclectic weirdo, and I like to be out of a grid, and um, so it took like I knew that in order to really take and make something that I felt holy, WHOLL, that holy, not this holy a part of, I needed to just rebuild the band under and take over and be the boss lady. I've always collaborated with people. I've worked with producers, and that's great. Like I've done that for 10 years, but I was like, I want to just collaborate with me. I don't want to like I want to pick all the chords, and I don't want to have to explain a chord. I just want to say, this is the song I heard. This is what I've written. Like I hear it this way, and that's just what I did. Was I spent like a year writing a bunch of stuff with nobody else. Wrote them between like my Casio keyboard and my guitar, and like created demos and laid out vocal arrangements, and then really just took them to my band, played them live, then took them to Terry, and you know developed the sound together with someone. but the sound was already so much there because I had been wearing it like a loose piece of clothing, you know. And so it's like 100%. I mean, it's still me. It's more me than anything though. Like just because it's just I'm just in everything. And that's why like even like the 3 songs that are out, you'll see like that there's visuals to everything. And that's like I've done all those visuals because for me that's another extension of my art. And so even like people have messaged me, can I do a video for you? And it's been kind of nice to just say no. Like I have a vision for this whole thing, and the only person that can execute it is me. I might die at the end of this from all the work I've taken on, but it's so fulfilling because like it's like beyond my wildest dreams to be like doing this now.
That's awesome. Are there recurring themes that tend to influence your music or have tended to influence your music throughout the years? Is there always a through line of some sort?
Like sonically or contextually or
I'd say all the above. Is there anything that's just keeps on tethering you back to a certain idea or
through and through
viewpoint?
is like for me, well, so like I love soul music. I love simple melodies and I love harmonies and voices, but I also like imperfections.
Hmm.
I love just like capturing a moment in the moment. I don't like anything to be perfect. I like to see the rough edges and to see the fingerprints. So in my music and my art, everything's in my new music, especially like the vocals that you hear are first takes sometimes. Those were the ones that like captured the feeling. Um and in like the visual stuff, that's always like it's all very DIY. Like it's never you can see like the flash, the lighting maybe is kind of if it's animation and you see like the flashes of the lighting change, but that that adds to the like you can see the love in it. So I think with my music, just the through thread is just this very like little bit messy, quirky, and like lighthearted. Like
Hmm.
just have fun with it. Like it's like life's too short to be your own worst critic
Yeah,
and just
let that be somebody else. Yeah.
yeah yeah be someone else's worst critic.
Are there more differences within each release than similarities, or is vice versa? Is there more things that are connecting these than separating them?
For which the new stuff or
Well, with the new stuff and the old stuff, with every release, is there more things that are kind of spreading them out more and putting them in different camps, if you will, or parts of your mind,
I
or
mean
is there more things that
everything
are?
everything through and through. It's always I've journaled since I was a kid, like been pretty consistent in journaling. Sometimes I'm like everyday journaler, sometimes it's right now it's like a once a week. But I have journals dating back to when I was 13. So like the way that I write is very like true to what is going. It's either like kind of introspective on like life and like just the way that I paint my world. And it's also very like what sometimes it's like what I am thinking about and didn't even realize I was thinking about. Like that's what I say. Sometimes it's a little subconscious. Also, a lot of metaphors in my music. My dad used to always talk to me and he'd be like, this is like this. He still does. He was like king of metaphors, and it used to drive me crazy. But now I realize that I write in metaphors a lot.
Has what you get from making music over the years changed? Has what you've been receiving from this process changed?
Like money. I haven't gotten that. I'm just kidding.
You
Um,
were on Ray Donovan season, what was it, season 2
is it? They
episode?
don't pay like a lot of times like that that show. It was like it did not pay that good, but it paid because of all the people, the new fans I got, and that when it bought the record, that was what ended up paying.
Music licensing always intrigues me. It's like,
Yeah, it's weird because sometimes it'll be something like You wouldn't think that like butt wipes would have such a huge budget, but butt wipes will have a huge budget, you know. Maybe it's because they got to find a band to sing while baby's butt gets wiped, you know.
Yeah.
And then TV shows have like, we've got $1,000 for you, and then you got to pay your manager, your band, your publisher. So then you wind up with $200, you know.
That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear like it was I got half a mil, everyone else got a half a mil.
We're
It was pretty
living.
even.
I
Ray
got
Donovan
little
pays
summers
out real well.
outside.
The fact that you have parking in New York is just, I mean, that would be a flex, let alone a
This
Hummer.
neighborhood does not have parking. It's there's,
I
but
feel like that's every neighborhood in New York to ever exist ever.
yeah. I had a friend that kept cones in their trunk and would like put them out so they get parking spots.
Yeah, but
That's
how well does that work though?
He said it worked for a while until I don't think he has a car now.
Because it
Um,
got towed because it didn't work, the cones. Anyways.
that was my car. Um, so true story. You were asking me
Well, what you receive from making music,
oh,
has that changed over the years though? Has that changed at all?
oh, I mean, my dream, like when I dropped out of college, I think I did 1 year at a state school at USF in Tampa. But like I dropped out of college, and like my parents, like when I was like I'm dropping out, I want to be a singer, and they were like, well, I said I want to be a successful singer, and my parents were like, all right, you want to drop out, define what's your definition of success, because like and my parents challenged me to define success then, and I'm so glad they did that, because it's I can always use that as a gauge. And like what I said was I want to just make music, have a lit like be a living as an artist, like pay my bills as a singer and a writer. And like to me that was what I wanted. And so everything else beyond that is like icing on the cake. And so like because I defined it like that, I wasn't like, I want to be Michael. I mean, it would be cool. Maybe I can still be Michael Jackson, but that would be the icing. Like, that's cool. But like, what I've gotten out of music that hasn't changed is like the gratitude for being sitting here right now. Like, because I defined that success. And if I look back at that definition, then I've achieved it. Like, and that feels really good. Like, I live in an apartment in New York, and I write songs that help people to feel things and that help me to get through feelings. I do something that I love and that is helping to give to make just make the world better. Like, and I do think art and music are like the saving grace of the universe. Like, it's one thing that, man, it saves us. And so to be able to do that and like sit in my backyard on a beautiful day. Like I don't have a boss. I don't have to sit like I didn't have to go and like request the time off to sit here and talk to you. I got to just write it in my planner. Like that's awesome. Like that alone like feels great. And it's just, I'm no million. I'm no millionaire. I've never seen that. I'm not today. I'm not even 1,000-aire. I might be 100-aire. But like that stuff doesn't matter to me, because like all I've ever wanted to do was just like make art and music and like connect with people. So that hasn't changed. I think it just keeps getting better because I've been seeing it like get onto a bigger scale, and still like I don't the things that I want and that make me happy haven't changed. So it's all just bonuses.
That's a great answer to that question, Kendra. Um, Thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate
Oh,
you clearing it by your boss to carve out some time and mark me on the calendar. No, you're awesome. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit here, but we there's some new songs that have been released,
Mhm.
which are Dear Buddy, If I Called You, and In My House. Those are the three, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And as you mentioned before, there are some accompanying music videos to these releases.
Mhm.
And those are all on YouTube for people to go check out, and those will all be linked below of whatever people are listening to this on. Um, and aside from that, we got some other stuff to promote because you got a lot of stuff going on trying to become a thousandaire once again.
I
Um,
gotta make my way back.
Me as well. I'm trying. Aside from that, Kendra's music is streaming everywhere. Wherever people get their music, that's where they could find you, right?
Mhm.
Perfect. Um, and people can hear mostly all of the releases through the Bandcamp, right? And can go support you by buying those tracks digitally there. That's the best
Yeah.
place.
That's like the one place you can still buy digitally. Otherwise, you
Right
can
on.
send me your 0.0003 cents.
They raised it. They raised
Yeah,
they
we all
raised the
got
fee.
raises.
Wow. Please go and visit kendramorris.bandcamp.com, where you can find the music, as well as some of the merch is also there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Coal Mine connects some of the merch stuff through there too.
Right on. And people can also visit your website for some more merch, which is kendramorrismusic.com.
Mhm.
That's also a good place to go and visit. And as you mentioned before, you can find the vinyl from Karma Chief and Coal Mine through coalminerecords.com. That's the best place.
Yeah,
And people can stay up to date with news and shows and tours and everything else by following you on Instagram. That's the best place, right?
100%. I'm very
Perfect.
present in Instagram. That's where I like to hang out the most.
That's where that's the new the what was it called? The library? Was
That's
it
my
the
new library bar.
it's the new library bar.
Yeah.
And that's at Kendra Morris on Instagram. Or if you're not on Instagram and you do want to stay up to date with news and shows and tours, also again, kendramorrismusic.com will have some updates there. And you got some dates supporting Surprise Chef, right?
Yeah. Yep. The
Right
first week,
on.
second week of July, we'll be out with Surprise Chef on the East Coast and parts of the Midwest.
That's gonna be
And
great.
yeah, and then September, I'll be doing a headline tour
Ooh.
through Midwest again, and East Coast. And then hopefully out west soon, working on it.
We're working on it. Who do you have opening up for you on your solo journey?
We haven't locked it down yet. We're just working on it now, like filling in the spots.
Surprise chef is that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll ask them. Hey
Just
guys.
saying. I mean, you will have the time. No, is there anything else, Kendra, before we close it here?
No, I think we covered a lot. It was fun talking about my old bar days, the old stomping grounds.
I wanted to
It's
get into
fun
it, and
there.
I'm glad we did. For the Lou Reed story, that was amazing,
What
and
you didn't love the barf story?
that was also good. But it being a health inspector was a little bit, that was
You know
the
what?
nauseating part of that.
Next time we do a podcast, I'll tell you about. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah, please, you can say
Next
whatever the heck you want.
next time we do part two, I'll tell you the story about the serial shitter.
I have a feeling that it was the same lady that puked. I don't know though. No spoilers. We'll wait till the next time. Kendra,
Part
thank you
two.
so much. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right.